Welcome to the New Mom Talk podcast, your go-to podcast for evidence-based answers to your burning questions about parenting. Join us as we dive into commonly Googled topics and hear from experts and real moms. Let's navigate parenthood together, one question at a time. Hi, everyone. Today, we're going to talk about postpartum traditions through an Ayurvedic lens. I'm really excited for this. For those of you that have not heard about Ayurvedic, we are going to dive a little bit more into that and what that means because it's something that is starting to become a little bit more apparent or more known during that postpartum stage. So for that, we have Christine Eck that's going to share all of her knowledge with us.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Yeah, so my name is Christine Eck. I'm the founder of the Center for Sacred Window Studies, along with some other amazing women who I have been colleagues with and co-students with through training as an Ayurvedic postpartum doula. So this is a path that for me was such a calling from my own experience and recognizing how little I knew about the postpartum window when it actually came time for me to be in it. And at the time, well, I guess it was about a year after I gave birth for the first time, I started to study Ayurveda. Ayurveda is the longest continually practiced medical science in the world that we have record of. And it is incredibly practical. It's incredibly applicable to anyone from any background. The word Ayurveda really means life knowledge. So we are all living Ayurveda, whether or not we know what that word means. But it's really about understanding how we operate as a human being in the natural world and how we can make adjustments to things like our diet and the way that we structure our routines and the way we heal during specific times based on our unique body and our unique constitutions. So your path of healing, Mariella, is different than mine because we live in these different bodies. And so for me, that was like, yeah, that makes so much sense. In particular, what I realized that really took me down the path of Ayurvedic postpartum care is that this system of medicine has so much guidance for how to heal after birth. And that's something that I wasn't seeing or wasn't hearing, wasn't reading about, wasn't given any heads up that there were things that I could do to help support my milk supply, to help not feel so depleted, to help really create regulation in my nervous system, and all these things that are so commonplace as struggles for people in the postpartum window. So much so that we sort of associate the word postpartum with depression, and that's not actually true. It's all of us who give birth go through the postpartum window. So the work that I do with my colleagues is really about helping to create awareness that this is a really unique and special time. And there's so much that can be done. It's not as though we are at the mercy of whatever our birth was like or whatever our baby is like or whatever our postpartum window is going to be like. We have so much autonomy. And we have some ways that we can use that are based on really ancient science to feel good, to feel like we got this, and to just be our best the way that we want to feel.
I want to highlight two things that you mentioned. First of all, the fact that there is no guidance for postpartum care, right? I see this all the time. You have all of these visits during your pregnancy, and then during that postpartum stage, you have 1 to 2 depending on your form of delivery. But you get zero guidance on how to help you recover other than here's a baby, bye, go home, good luck, right? And then when you were talking about Ayurveda, so you also mentioned that you are a postpartum doula, and that's where I started to learn or just kind of see the word more often was through postpartum doulas, because it does seem to be a big thing with the meals, the postpartum meals, which also I've noticed through a lot of postpartum meal delivery services, they use a lot of the Ayurvedic. I don't know if it's cuisines. I'm not very educated on Ayurveda, so I don't know what the proper term would be to describe it, but they use that for their recovery meals.
Yeah. Yeah. It's exciting because it's not what I love about it is that this science, it's like principles, right? It's like qualities. So we can apply the qualities of what it is that we need to be eating. So things like warm foods, foods with good fats, foods that are maybe like sweeter and like have a little bit of spice to it so we can jumpstart our digestion again. Things that are a little bit softer and not like dry and crunchy. And so things that are fresh versus like sort of old food. So these are the qualities that we're looking for. So those things can be applied to whatever cuisine is like our favorite. So we would not want to like show up at somebody's home and be like, you've never had these types of food before, but this is what I'm going to feed you. We want to know, like, what did your mom make for you when you were sick and you were little? Like, what is the food that makes you feel like cozy and cared for? And then we can apply these types of qualities, these principles to that type of cuisine, knowing that these are the elements and the qualities that are going to create the ability for that person to start going to the bathroom regularly again, the ability for that person to fully digest their food and not have all the negative impacts of undigested food, which can be sort of fogginess in the brain or like sluggishness or depletion or all kinds of things, whether it's gas that then gets passed to the baby. And there's so much that stems from poor digestion. And I think for me, that was like, that's kind of the central thing that we overlook in the West is that after birth or after surgery or after any type of stressful event, our digestion goes down. Like our ability to digest food is impacted. Our body is like working so hard to regulate and find its strength after giving birth that if we put a bunch of complicated foods into our bellies that we can't actually utilize because we're not at a place of being able to digest it yet, we kind of further stress ourselves out. So I love that you've been noticing more food delivery services. And even just like when I was having my babies, I just printed out like some super simple recipes that I knew that my husband could make or my mom could make or my mother-in-law could make. And I just kind of had them in the kitchen. There weren't any food delivery services, but I had like a good sense of these are some really simple things that I know are going to be nourishing for me and I know are going to help me sleep better, will help me make enough milk, will help me stay regulated. And so, it doesn't have to be this like, I've got to hire out or do all these things that maybe I don't feel like I can afford. There's so much that can be done with just mindful preparation and thinking ahead. And that's what I love about it. It's not so much about all these extra things I have to do. It's like, how can I just really be aware in my own space of my body and its needs and how to ultimately heal? Because our healing shouldn't be overlooked.
Yeah, especially when if you are nursing, using your body to keep a little human alive.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
in a lot of these kind of postpartum recovery things that I see now more often, there's like the 40 days you had mentioned the first 42 days. Can you talk a little bit about what the sacred window is and what these 42 days during that postpartum period means and how it ties in with the Ayurvedic tradition?
Yeah. I think I just love this aspect of it because it points to the awareness that this is a unique time. And, whether it's 40 days or 42 days, it's really about looking at this 6-week period as one that requires some gradual building back up of strength. And what is so great and beautiful about the Ayurvedic understanding about it is that we are shown that when care is given during this time, like the body is ready for it. Like you will see people begin to recover really quickly. Sometimes, in fact, so quickly that, when it's time for all the support to leave, like 6 to 8 weeks later, then they feel depleted because now it's like, oh, it's real now. Like parenting is like this is what's happening. But during that sacred window, we see a really beautiful immediate response to the nourishment, to the rest, to the herbal support or whatever, other routines a person is doing and receiving. So the sacred window is really about letting the tissues of the body fully regenerate, letting the transition into this new role take place in a way that is gradual and supported and integrative so that a person feels steady. Like this is a time when lots of people might feel any sort of part of the spectrum of a little bit bewildered to like totally ungrounded. And there's so many different factors that can contribute to overwhelm and to depletion and to, more severe perinatal mood and anxiety disorders. However, when a person is set up for having the support that they need, there's much less likely that they're going to get to a place where they feel impacted, where their quality of life is impacted, where their ability to connect with themselves and with their babies is really negatively impacted because they're held. Like we would never want a baby to go without true attentive care that's loving and always available. And I think we've got to stop separating the expectation for the mom or the person who gave birth. Like they are a unit and we've got to hold them both together. We have to see them both for their needs. And when that happens, it's really, really beautiful. And it doesn't mean that, okay, now it's going to be easy and you're going to have an easy time of it. It's not about that because I think it's meant to be a rite of passage that can feel hard. And we can also feel supported and know that I'm going to get through this. I got this. Last night was really hard, but I'm good. I'm going to sleep today. I'm going to find time, whatever it is. We have some resiliency that without that support network during this sacred window of time, we may not feel like we're resilient. And that's what needs to be attended to. And it's really exciting to see more momentum about it. I mean, we have students around the world who are coming to learn this because everyone who has given birth or who is around people who are giving birth, we see that our cultures and our societies have left out so much of those traditions that were tending to the new parents. And so we're bringing it back. And it feels amazing to see that happen.
I really kind of want to stick to this a little bit more, talking more about the Ayurvedic tradition. So, how does Ayurveda view the physical, emotional, and spiritual healing that takes place during postpartum? Hi, everyone. It's your host, Mariella. I want to thank you for listening and share some ways to show your continued support. You can rate and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Share the show with friends and family. Buy me a coffee to help with the financial costs of running a podcast. Follow me on Instagram at newmomtalk.podcast. And finally, subscribe to my newsletter. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, it's beautiful because ancient systems like Ayurveda, and there are others too, really on every corner of the globe, there have been traditional systems of medicine that really focus on this idea that our mental health and our physical health and our emotional health and our sensory health are all connected. And when one of them is out of balance, it's usually some combination of aspects that are not in balance. And so when we are able to look at the connections between like the mind and the gut, and when we're able to look at the connections of how I structure my routines related to how I feel in my heart and my mind, or how I'm able to process emotions differently when I have this type of support, or how I'm able to handle sensory input when I'm being a bit more mindful about that balance of what's too much and what's okay. So, Ayurveda is really about looking at the individual, knowing ourselves, and also knowing some basic elements in nature. So, it's super simply put, like when we are cold, we grab a sweater and we want to get warm. When we're, when we're tired, we want to rest. And so this is a very practical science in that we can see that certain elements in nature, we've got air and space, and we've got water and fire and earth. And these elements are in different combinations in every single person and every single place on earth. So we can use those elements to help us understand which qualities we need to elevate, which qualities we maybe need to decrease. So, in the postpartum window, we know that the elements of air and space are elevated naturally. This is supposed to happen. So we might feel things like kind of spacey or unsettled. We might have difficulty with elimination because there's a lot of dryness and sort of rough qualities that are happening in our body from the process of giving birth. So when we're able to recognize that that's real and to some degree for every single person, we can start to think about how can I bring in warmth? How can I bring in slowness to help bring our, maybe that feeling of unsettledness to a more grounded place? So I love how universal and how practical it is. And I think that lends itself to a lot of accessibility. There's no one way to receive Ayurvedic postpartum care. For whatever routine you're doing, whether it's maybe just sitting and listening to your favorite quiet music and breathing with a weighted blanket on your shoulder, like that's Ayurvedic. If that brings you down to a place of regulation. So it's not this, I think my hope is that people can start to see that this is for everyone. It doesn't conflict with any cultural beliefs or religious or spiritual beliefs. This is practical human science that is really filling in the gaps that are there, which is creating all this. I remember for myself just feeling blindsided by postpartum because I didn't know anything of what to prepare for, what could possibly go wrong. I just made some assumptions that it would be blissful and it would just be me and my baby and I'd nurse and it'd be great. And in fact, there's a lot more to it than that.
So I love that you mentioned just a simple way to incorporate this practice into your daily life. So let's kind of stick with that for a little bit. For moms who don't have access to the traditional Ayurvedic care, like what are some simple practices that they can incorporate into their postpartum journey at home?
Yeah, I love that. In terms of like routines, thinking about your nervous system and what creates the ability for you to feel really held and loved. Do you need to be alone or do you want company? Do you respond to music or maybe are you more of a quiet, like meditative person? What is it that creates the ability for you to just let your shoulders relax? So do those things. That's one thing. In terms of food, think about things that are warm and easily digestible. So, things like soups, your favorite soups and stews and warm cereals. Smoothies are great, but just maybe room temperature. Anything that's cold is going to constrict us further. So we want things that are room temp or ideally warm. So that's kind of a little bit of guidance. Remembering too that we need to work back up to the foods that we were able to eat before we gave birth. So really creating the ability to eat simply and build on that. So when you start to crave things, that's good. That's your body like kind of boosting its digestion. And it's like, I'm ready for more. So try it out. And if you notice that, oh, this is harder, like wasn't able to go to the bathroom yesterday, like then you can just step back. It's really about being gentle with ourselves and curious and then responsive. So if we start to feel like, maybe we really wanted to go out and we are, do it. Go out and be out in public. But then as soon as you start to feel like it's too much, just honor that for yourself and come back to a place of rest. There's so many beautiful cookbooks out there now and herbal support recipes for teas and things like that. So I encourage people to find like a routine. Maybe it's like a certain tea that you have throughout the day. There's a lot of guidance that we train our students in. Another beautiful practice is putting oil on your body. So warm oil massage is a staple practice for an Ayurvedic health routine, not just for postpartum, but certainly for postpartum. So I invite your listeners to just get like a little bottle of organic sesame oil or something of your choice that you love and just try to start like giving yourself a foot massage at the end of the day. Just keep it next to your bed and put some cozy socks on after you massage your feet and just notice, how does that create a shift in your ability to sleep, in your nervous system? So, yeah. And, we love a full body oil massage. And I'm also a realist that sometimes we might not have time for all the things that we know are good for us. I've got four busy kids at my house and I do what I can. And sometimes I'll be hard on myself and think that I should be doing more. But in the end, I would never want a client of mine or a student of mine to be hard on themselves. So it's kind of reminding ourselves, okay, like let's just step back and trust and just notice, start to get a little bit closer of a friend to ourselves.
Well, thank you. Do you have any other tips, suggestions, or recommendations? I think all of this is just it just sounds so easy to incorporate and to add into our daily lives, even if you're not in those first 40 days. So I love all of this stuff that you've shared.
Yeah, and I'm really glad to hear you say that it is easy because I think sometimes we feel like it's too hard to incorporate new things, but I invite all of us to remember that, we can create balance, therefore practicing Ayurveda in our daily lives in whatever it is that we're doing, even if it's just stopping and taking a deep breath. Or like you and I are doing here, which is just connecting with another person on something that feels positive and an opportunity to grow as social beings, which is another aspect to postpartum wellness, is feeling seen, feeling connected, feeling not alone. So I love what you're doing. I really appreciate, the ability for new moms, for people in this field to know that there's others out there who have the same concerns and the same, things that feel important as we do. And, for those of you listening, your experiences as a new parent are so valuable for all of your community around you, whether it's your friends or whether it's, in the future. I always think about, future grandbabies that I'll have and how I can show up for my children and my grandchildren in ways. So this is a knowledge base that we all have an opportunity to engage in. It's not only relevant during the postpartum window, and it will carry you through to many decades of parenting ahead. So thank you for inviting this conversation.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing all of this. It also is a great way for anyone that is supporting a new mom to think of alternate ways to support moms that is not just through fulfilling that baby registry item, right? So
Like,
we have all of like the meal trains now and a lot more postpartum apps that are available to support moms, almost like your village essentially. So I love that this is a really easy way to do that and to incorporate Ayurvedic through that.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for listening. Tune in next week for our next episode. You can find us on Instagram for more updates and tips. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts and give us a review if you like us.